In Palestine, the Israeli army continues to kill civilians. At least 220 people perished under the occupiers' bombardments in the last 24 hours. In Venezuela, diplomat Alex Saab denounced the mistreatment he received during his time in prison at the United States on the third edition of President Nicolás Maduro's podcast. And in Argentina, the General Confederation of Workers called for a national strike with a march to the Congress to be held on January 24th in rejection of the emergency decree issued by the government of Javier Milei. Hello, welcome to From the South. My name is Belén de los Santos, and from the TeleSUR studios in Havana, Cuba, we begin with the news. The Zionist army, in the face of the failure of the offensive against Hamas, continues to kill Palestinian civilians. At least 220 people perished under the occupiers' bombardment in the last 24 hours. Again, on the 84th day of the war, bombs ravaged the entire strip. According to the Red Crescent, only in the vicinity of an Al-Malal hospital south of Gaza, 41 people have been killed, almost all of them women and children. In the West Bank, the occupiers' troops killed 4 young people and wounded and detained an undetermined number of people. Han Yunis is currently one of the most besieged areas. About 90 fatalities have been counted in the last 24 hours. The coordinator of the UN Office for Palestine, Thomas White, also confirmed that Israel attacked one of his humanitarian convoys. In Lebanon, the Hezbollah resistant group warned that it is ready to respond militarily to any aggression by the occupying army. The border area between southern Lebanon and Israel has intensified tensions in recent days as the parties exchanged fire with losses on both sides. In this sense, the leader of the military group, Naim Qassem, pointed out that they are ready to take the necessary actions in the face of the genocide triggered in the Gaza Strip. He added that they have been part of the battle since the beginning of the intensification of the Israeli siege.
If Israel goes too far, we will retaliate twice. We will not be afraid of any Israeli or U.S. threats or intimidation because the future of the region now depends on this hope and this sacrifice.
Meanwhile, Arabs and Israelis rallied in Tel Aviv on Thursday for a ceasefire in Gaza as Israeli forces heavily bombed the besieged Gaza Strip.
Israelis, Palestinians, Muslims, Jews, and Christians. This is everybody's home. The only solution is to recognize that both people are entitled to a life of freedom and sovereignty and dignity. No matter their religion and background, everybody needs. These are basic human rights that have been withdrawn from millions of people for 56 years. So there is, of course, the atrocities committed by Hamas on October 7th will never be pardoned and excused. They never can, period. No forgiveness, but if you don't see the historical context, then you're condemned to repeat the same tragedy over and over again.
Well, this protest is about Arab people and Jewish people standing together. And we live here together in this country, and I believe that we have to live here together. And I do believe that we can live peacefully together. And I am for peace and for the two-state solution, which our Prime Minister doesn't want even to talk about. And now we have even, how should I say, a more important goal, which is to bring back our hostages. These are Israeli civilians who are held by people of Hamas. And our government is responsible for our citizens.
Let's take a short break. But remember, you can join us on TikTok at TeleSUR English, where you will find news in different formats, news updates, and more. Other stories coming up. Stay with us. Welcome back. In Venezuela, diplomat Alex Saab denounced the torture and cruel treatment received during his kidnapping in Cape Verde and illegal incarceration in the United States. In an exclusive interview given in the third edition of Maduro's podcast, the diplomat said that during his kidnapping, the U.S. government imposed unilateral coercive measures against Venezuela and blocked its economy in order to get the nation's collapse. Saab also reported that during his abduction, he had to drink water in the same container where he had to perform his physiological needs. And during his exclusive interview, the Venezuelan diplomat referred to the sanctions he and his family had been subjected to by the U.S. government and how he was tortured for 2 hours for refusing to sign a voluntary extradition from Cape Verde to the United States.
In July 2019, I was sanctioned. My sons, my brothers also were sanctioned, who didn't even have any link to the government of Venezuela. The sanctions, they were sanctions because they were relatives of mine. Since 2019, I was sanctioned for working in the system of food, the food system of Venezuela. That first night, I was put in jail. No one spoke to me. The next day and night, I had no food, no water. At midnight, they start to talk to me, and they urged me to sign my voluntarily extradition to the United States. I refused. Then the control is they handcuffed me and seat me in a chair. They put a towel. They put a towel on my face and start filling my face with water. So I had the sensation of drowning. They tortured me for over 2 hours.
In this context, Alex Saab also shared his experiences in prison and admitted that he gets emotional when he remembers some of these moments.
On November 16th, a guard came to me and said, "Alex, there are a group of people from human rights are going to come here with the director of the prison jail. You need to yell that you are being subjected to torture." So when I heard that they were coming up, I started to yell. Well, they kept walking. They didn't listen to me. I still get very emotional when speaking about this. 10 minutes later, they came back. They opened the door and say, "Alex, we are here for you." They verified that I was tortured. They say They say this is not going to happen again. They fired the director Correa from the prison.
For her part, Camila Fabri, wife of diplomat Alex Saab, recounted how the Venezuelan people were a great support for her in the midst of the nightmare the Saab-Fabri family was living.
This has been the victory of the diplomacy of peace. This has been a historical victory, and they are in pain because they spent millions of dollars in this media war and this demonization of Alex and Venezuela. We are more than decided to defend the truth of Venezuela, because there are a lot of lies to justify policies against Venezuela. We need to fight because these people deserves to be respected and deserves to be defended. This is a loving people that me personally they have given me a lot.
And now we move on to other topics. In Uruguay, citizens took to the streets to demand public safety in the city of Durazno, in the center of the country, amid a spike in violence nationwide. According to authorities, at least 10,000 citizens took part in the demonstration that moved to the courthouse of the department of the same name. The town has been marked by several violent acts, mostly attributed to clashes between criminal gangs in recent months. The march was triggered by an incident that took place on Christmas Eve when a young woman was shot in the face while waiting to enter a dance hall. She is currently in intensive care in a hospital with a severe condition report. And in Argentina, the General Confederation of Workers called for a national strike with a march to the Congress to be held on January 24th in rejection of the emergency decree issued by the government of Javier Milei. The General Confederation Committee of the CGT called this Thursday for protest activities against the labor reform and the adjustment measures promoted by the decree and bill sent to the Congress. In addition, it announced for the next January 10th a plenary meeting of regional delegations at the headquarters of Azopardo. In this sense, the co-head of the Central Workers Union, Héctor Daer, made statements on the harmful consequences of the mega decree and assured that Milei is trying to concentrate all public power on himself and that the measures harm the workers' collective and individual rights. We have a second short break coming up, but before we invite you to join our WhatsApp community for our English-speaking audience. You can scan the QR code on screen to join directly and also share the link to reach more people. Constant news coverage of Latin America and the Caribbean, as well as the rest of the world. Stay connected and informed with TeleSUR. Final short break, don't go away. Welcome back. African governments are expanding protected areas by grabbing pasture and farmland from small farmers. They are opening the way for large investors to expand conservation with the expectation of carbon and biodiversity credits following the failure to agree on international public finance for climate change. More on this in the following story.
The government has taken their land to expand the conservation of a national park.
They have taken a 7-acre field from me. They have decided that this place will be used for conservation. Fortunately or unfortunately, they have already demarcated the new boundaries.
Government, please look at us with pity. We are your citizens. Where are we going now?
We have no peace. TANAPA is attacking us and the elephants are attacking us. TANAPA has appropriated about 500 acres of farmland.
Our village chiefs are only concerned with the district proceedings. They say nothing.
They have said that we can plant for the last time, that we will not cultivate there anymore.
Value animals more than people. Where are we going?
The Barali Wilaya on one side is the Pangaquipengere Game Reserve, and on the other, a few kilometers away, lie the confines of the Ruaja National Park. The Maasi and Sukuma pastoralists have been surviving without access to pasture for years. But now the government wants to evict the people. For example, from Guavira, whose houses and rice fields have been left inside the new post erected by the National Parks Authority, Tanapa. The late President John Magufuli had succeeded in preventing conservation development from destroying villages. But in late 2022, the government announced that 5 villages in Barali and more than 47 hamlets must disappear to protect Ruaja's wildlife.
It is a gigantic area. Hospital buildings, schools, mosques, churches. The government comes and says they have to leave. These are people who have been there for more than 40 years. And well, these people were not informed or consulted in this decision-making.
More than 800 United Farmers have challenged the government's decision in court, although so far it has only bought time to plant the last rice crops in 2024.
We do not have any strength. We are united, but we are only waiting for the procedure to be established by the government. But we have no other choice but to accept to leave. We are united, but we are just waiting for the procedure to be established by the government. However, as citizens, we still don't know where they will take us.
The chief of Guavira has forbidden us to enter the affected lands, where we wanted to confirm that the individual investors have already started the construction of a tourist complex, as the farmers claim.
What kind of nature is it to create hotels that will attract vehicles that will come and pollute? What kind of nature is that?
When it comes to taking care of the environment, the farmers agree and ask that education for the transition to farmer agroecology be encouraged. However, they do not agree with the decision to sacrifice the rice they produce for the people for the supposed money of elite tourism.
The idea is to capture control of the land at the expense of the lives of the farmers.
To generate carbon credits, CO2 sequestration must be expanded, and that seems to be the objective of the government's decision, even though it is one of the countries least responsible for climate change, and paradoxically, one of the most indebted.
Desde Barali, Oscar Repelde para TeleSUR.
And like this, we have come to the end of this news brief. You can find these and many other stories on our website at telesurenglish.net. And also join us on social media. We are on Facebook, X, Instagram, Telegram, and TikTok. For TeleSUR English, my name is Belén de los Santos. Thank you for watching.